Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Good afternoon for me. Good morning for some of the people joining us from the Far East. Thank you for joining us today. We will be going through ActiveReports. Just an introduction to it. If you haven't seen it already, there is a question panel on your GoToWebinar panel. We will be looking through those questions and answering them towards the end of the session or during the session, whichever makes sense. So diving right in, what we're going to be covering today is why choose ActiveReports? Why ActiveReports? What's the background behind it? What's the story behind it? A bit about what ActiveReports is, kind of what's in it for me. I mean, as a developer, as a user of ActiveReports, what do I get? What benefits do I get? Now, that's going to be all in the slides, and we're going to rush through the slides. I want to focus us more on actually going through and showing you the Visual Studio Report Designer, the End User Report Designer control, and how to use that. And we'll do that with a small oversimplified report portal application, but then we're also going to go on to the server and look at the report portal that's available to us out of the box, as well as the server report designer. Like I said earlier, we will be finishing off with a Q&A, right? And context is always good. As we all know when it comes to reporting, context is the key. So why ActiveReports? Now, some of you may already know about ActiveReports, so this may be a repetition for you guys, but bear with me. A lot of our attendees here are new to ActiveReports. They're new to Grape City. Grape City is a privately held company. We have been in the market for over 30 years, and for the last 20 of those, we have had ActiveReports out there in the market. Developers have been using it since VB6 times with the COM controls, and then moved on to .NET, and now moving on to JavaScript and HTML5 as well. They've been doing reporting all these years, building reporting tools, embedding reporting onto their applications, doing business intelligence stuff, everything across the board. So from this, we've gained a deep understanding of what is it that reporting needs are. What are the key reporting needs? What do you need from a reporting tool set? And that helps us build our roadmap, and just a few logos there for who our customers are. Bottom line, why customers use ActiveReports? It covers all the bases for them. For their reporting needs. We'll see how it does that in just a second. But before I move on, let me go in and ask you guys, how do you do reporting today? So we'll just start a short poll here. We're going to spend maybe 30 seconds here. If you just choose, how do you do reporting today? Do you use a custom code-based pages? Do you use the report designer that comes with Visual Studio built in? Do you use SQL reporting services? Something else? If you do use something else, or there's completely a different way that you do reporting, write it into the question box, and that'll help us kind of understand where we're at. We have around a majority of people who are either using custom code-based reports or pages, and or the report designer. Majority of us are definitely in the top three. We've used custom pages, report designer, which is built in, or SQL Server reporting tools. Right, so let's move on and cover kind of what how ActiveReports can help you with these needs, the reporting needs that you have where you use custom code. Now, what is ActiveReports and what's in it for me? For me, meaning a developer, right? Not for me as in Bhupesh, right? So what's in it for me as a developer? It's a .NET developer tool. It's not something which is foreign, right? You don't need to learn another language. You don't need to go to another environment. It's all built into the same Visual Studio environment that you're accustomed to. You kind of use it within Visual Studio, so it can be part of your project. You don't need to worry about moving code around, moving reports around, compiling them separately, and adding references. All that you don't need to worry about. It's all built in, and we'll see this in a while. Every tool set is built into the Visual Studio environment, so you don't need to kind of go into multiple places. ActiveReports also has different report types for your needs. So section reports, everybody knows. I mean, there's sections, there's a detailed section, there's a page header, there's a report header, there's a page footer and a report footer, and you can add group sections. Those are the traditional reports. They're very powerful. You can use a lot of sub-reports and all. The new type of reports really are the RDL and page reports. The RDL reports are kind of like a fact sheet. Remember those olden days when you have fact sheets? They just print out one after the other, and you can cut them into pages if you want, or you can just print them out as long ledgers, and they're good for ledgers. Page reports are the next step forward, where you can control your layout. Think of catalogs, right? So where you have specific places where you want to put data in, and if the data is overflowing, you want to go to another page or show it differently. So all those things, all those controls are available to you specific to those report types, and each of them has your comprehensive list of controls that you can use for all your reporting needs. Now, where can I publish these reports? That's the next question that comes up. We have fully customizable drag and drop viewer controls. So you can, whether you're building your application or your project for an ASP.NET website, web application, or WPF or WinForms, we're going to actually see the WinForms viewer in a while, or the HTML5 and JavaScript-based environment, we have a viewer for you. It's completely customizable. You don't need to worry about kind of where the report is, how to get it. A few lines of code gives you a fully functional viewer for your report. Now, what next? So you have your reports, you've designed them, you've published them. What if you want your users to change them, modify them, customize them for their own needs, or for that matter, create new reports for their own requirements? Kind of getting into the ad hoc reporting side. Well, we have a fully customizable end user control for you. Now, this is something that you can use to embed within your WinForms applications. Choose what you want to embed, what you don't want to embed, customize the look and feel, kind of go all the way from asking questions and building the report in code, or giving the control off to your users to kind of drag and drop and kind of have the same experience that you as a developer have within Visual Studio. But this is not within Visual Studio. This would be within your application. Again, we'll come to this. We're going to see this in our session in the demos. Now, recently what we've done is we've added a server technology to the ActiveReports product line. Now, what that does is helps developers like yourselves to publish reports to a portal, and you don't need to create the portal. It's already there for you. It's a web application. You just embed that portal within your web application, and you're ready to go. You have the ability to schedule. You have the ability to scale your deployment. All that is built in and out of the box server technology. It's HTML5 based, so you can basically have it across all devices. It is responsive, so if you're opening it up in a mobile device, it'll look completely different, as you'll see in one of the screenshots that we have here. That one right there, right? And bottom line, everything comes with extensive API that you can use to control and embed within your application. So you can make ActiveReports work seamlessly within your application. You're not going away from your application in any way. You're staying within the Visual Studio environment and everything is familiar, right? So, and there's a lot more that I can just keep on going and going and going about. That's not what we're going to do here. If you do have an area that you are more interested in, again, let me know in the questions, and we will see if we can cover that area today, or if we can schedule a future webinar for everyone's benefit to discuss that area. Or a third option is kind of reach out to you and set up something one-to-one and share those or answer your questions on a customized demo. Right? So we do have a few questions. I think we're going to cover a few of these in the demo, so I'll leave those as it is right now, and we'll come back to them if we haven't covered them in the demo. Now, while I look through the questions, maybe another poll is a good way to start. Let's see, what are you looking for in a reporting tool? Is it the fact that it needs to be an integrated designer? Is it the fact that I need to have reporting controls, availability across different environments and development platforms, and so on and so forth? A majority of us are always looking for the integrated designer within the Visual Studio as well as the reporting controls. APIs and server-side reporting execution is pretty nice. I mean, it's more than half of us, but majority of us are on the IDE side. Well, let's have a look at it then. Let's start looking at the Visual Studio IDE report designer. And when we're looking at it, we'll look at the report designer, kind of go through it a bit and see one of the sample projects, and we'll also see a new project and kind of build a report and see how all that experience is before we move on to the end user report designer. And this is my, well, it's running mode. It is the report gallery sample. If you have downloaded ActiveReports and installed this, you would have seen this. If not, when you download ActiveReports and install ActiveReports onto your machine, you will see this sample. And just running that sample will share with you a lot of reports that we have, a lot of different type of reports, whether it's an RDL report, whether it's a page report. So let's say we have a catalog report here, and one of our audiences was asking about what's the difference between a page report and an RDL. Our page report has different types or different ways to show each page, and you can separate each report body to be different pages, right? So when you preview, each page shows up differently. One has data, one doesn't, and you can see that you can repeat a few pages, and then maybe the 10th page, last page is just an order form, right? However, on the other side, a dashboard type report may be just a RDL, right? Where you have a nice map, which we were seeing a while ago, a nice map with bullets, spark lines, indicators for red flag areas, and so on and so forth. If you wanted drill downs, you have those as well, whether it's parameterized drill downs or cascading parameters as we call it. So if I choose B's or if I choose D's, I have a different list, right? And I hit view report, I can drill down on these links, takes me to the sub-reports, go back up all the way, go back to the designer. And this gallery project is actually using the end user designer, and we'll see how to customize it in the second part of this session, or in the second part of this demo, let's say, right? But essentially what I wanted to show us here is that we have parameterized reports. We have drill downs, and there's a whole list of reports that you can see in the reports gallery, or you can choose to go online even today on our site. Under features, there is a demos page, and when you hit that demos page, you can actually see all these reports right online. And this one uses the HTML5 Viewer on the right-hand side. It is responsive, so you could just open it up on your mobile device right now if you want. Right? If there's a lot of people hitting it, it's probably going slow. Are you guys hitting this already? Anyways, so coming back to our sample here, wrong one, this one. Right? So let's go in and see the code behind this. Let's go in and see the reports gallery. Right? So you can see that this is within. We don't have a whole lot of code here. We are localizing this, so you can actually localize the whole thing. Your whole environment, will come to that in a while as well. But essentially, we are using the end user report designer controls, right? And we'll come to that in a while. Let's go ahead as the second part. Like I mentioned, we will actually go in and build a sample application, and let's go ahead and build a report as well. So what we have here is, now this is an oversimplified report portal, right? And I've kind of looked at doing more at design time rather than coding. All I've done really is right now to kind of get us started. I've drag and dropped our viewer control, dragged and dropped it here. We have all our properties, and I've also added 2 reports, orders and orders by customer, right? Here's my orders one. I've designed it. It's a very simple, straightforward report. Preview it. It gives me everything, right? And I've added a tool strip. Now I've kind of taken a few shortcuts here. I've kind of put those menu items directly here in design time, like I said, rather than doing it through code, just to kind of isolate what you really need to do from a coding perspective to get everything to work, so that you can see what additional stuff you would be doing, right? So here I have kind of orders, and if I go into my code behind here, you'll just see that for each of those menu strips, I have a .click. I'm opening up the report file and just showing it on the viewer. And we'll do exactly that. Let's go ahead and get started with adding a new item. This is Visual Studio, so I just add a new item, and I have ActiveReports 9 and 8 installed here. So I'm just going to use ActiveReports 9 RDL report. I'm going to call this customer list .rdlx and add that in there. Now, it adds it to my projects just the way another CS file, right? If I were using I can actually use a CS file for my code-based section reports, and that will actually add a CS file that I can actually have a layout as well as code behind for. But with the RDL reports or page reports or RPX reports, I still do have the scripting ability within the report file as well. So I can still do event-based stuff. So let's go on to our Report Explorer here. And this is where I would go in and create my data source. Let me go in and add one. We're just going to use our Northwind. And we're going to use my local machine here. So SQL Server. And oops. Right, save my password, select my database as Northwind, and we're ready to go. Now this is my data source. Now I could have put this all through code, kind of build that data source and build a connection string, through code, and have that all kind of behind the scenes, but this is just going through the designer to show you the different aspects of it. We're going to make this a customer list. So we'll just call this customer as a data set, and we're going to create a query. So here what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the visual query designer once it comes up, right? And this will actually show me, give me the ability to kind of create the query without actually knowing what to write. For example, I can never remember what the table name is for customers. Is it with an S or not without an S? So I get all my tables here. I can just say I want the customer name, company name, sorry. I want my contact name. I want my country. And that's all I want. And I'll actually have my customer ID as well. Now, if I wanted to go in and say, well, I want to also get my orders for this customer, I can go into my orders and say, well, I want to get my, I want to get my order ID here. Drag that and drop it. Right? And it'll ask me for creating a relation. I'll not do that. I'll just make it kind of simple, straightforward. Not do orders. Let's just do company and customer list and be done with it. Right? And save that. It creates that query for me. Right? I can go in and modify that. I can have joins. I can have complex queries here. I don't need it. We'll just use a simple customer list. It populates those fields over here for me as well. Now, I have all these controls that I can use. I'm going to use a simple table control here. Right? Build that table for me. I'm just going to say I'm going to have my contact name, my company name, and my country. Straightforward. Bold my titles. Make them a bit bigger. Right? So I'm basically just dragging and dropping stuff in here, formatting a few things, and we're ready to go. Frankly, we have a report here. Right? So that gives us our report. I'm okay with this report, let's say. I'm going to just save this here, and let's go in and plug this into our report viewer, our portal here. So I'm going to just add, this is something that you guys would probably not do, and kind of a lot of us are cringing at. Right? But I'll do it this way. Again, just to show what we need to do from a code perspective, just to use this. And I'm just going to do copy paste. Control C, Control V. How many of us have done this before? Raise your hand. And what was my name of the report? Customer list. All right, so get rid of that. I'm not even going to write list customer in there. I'm lazy. Right? Save all that, and we're ready to go. Let's give this a roll. So start that off, debugger, everything ready to go. Come on. Come on, Visual Studio. And here we go. We have a report viewer. This is our viewer control. It is customizable, if I didn't mention that before. Orders. This was the report that was built in. This is the report that we just created. Customer list. Wonderful. Zoom, page through it, print it out, search. If I had parameters, I can use that. Zoom in, zoom out, search through it, find, say, I don't know, find Mexico. Who would want to find Mexico? Well, it does find it, right? So all of these are built in. You can add more. You can add exporting features, use the API, export it out. You can have different views. So you can do anything that you want to customize the look and feel. Even change this toolbar to kind of use your own images and use your own way of doing all these things, right? But the thing is, out of the box, it's available to you. Quick drag and drop, and you're ready to go. right? So let's go back to our presentation here. Let's see if I've missed anything. We've gone through the report designer. It's within Visual Studio. We've seen kind of the different components, the report explorer, the toolbox, all that is integrated in there. We've seen the project, the sample project, as well as created a new report, created a new project. And we touched a bit about the end user report designer control. Let's move in there and see what that is all about. Now here's another project that I have up and running, and this is my end user report designer. So if I go in here, oh yeah, it's running, sorry, it's running. And you'll notice here, this looks still a lot like Visual Studio, and we've built it that way, at least the sample, kind of to show you everything that you can do. But you can see here, we don't have the Solution Explorer. It's gone. It's because it's basically just our embedded control. And we'll see how this all gets embedded. But for each different type of report, I can create a new report, and it gives me the 3 different type of reports that I can create. Follow the same processes. I can open a report, so that customer list that I created, I can open that and save it and start using it, make modifications, and start using that report. Now, this control, or these set of controls to build or embed your end user report designer within your application, they are all royalty free. So you don't have to worry about paying per user fees or cal fees for any of this, right? So let's go in and customize this a bit. Let's take a use case here that I don't want to allow end users to add a control, or kind of I want to ask for confirmation if they're going to make any changes, right, to the layout of these reports. So I'm going to kill the running mode and bring this over to my project here. I have some code, kind of cheated here. Again, I'm being lazy today. It's the afternoon. I'm adding an event here, and for that, whenever that happens, I'm just going to uncomment this code and allow changes, or ask for allowing changes. Oops, wrong button. There we go. Right? Ask for allowing changes, and this will prompt the user whenever they want to make changes here. So let's go in here. Let's start off the project again, and that's pretty much it. So we're going to open up that report. Again, it's just going to take its sweet time. My virtual machine isn't that great today. So while it does that, I will, okay, what provisions are available for keeping track of changes in a given report? Now, you need to kind of, how can I tell if the user is reporting a problem in a report I delivered to him, or some change he made to my report and failed to tell me what that he made modifications. Okay, so are you looking for a versioning or a history? Yes, there is a history available for this. You can use your own source control, or you can customize the end user report designer and kind of track all the changes that they're doing. For example, here, if I'm going to make changes to my customer list, which I opened, this is my end user control. Now that event that I created, it's actually going to tell me if I drag and drop an image, let's say, let's just say drag and drop a shape. It's going to ask me. Now at this point of time, I've just prompted the user and asked them. You can actually create a history for yourself within your application. Now, if you don't want to build all that, you can actually go in and use the server, which we will come to in our next part of the demo. And we have a full version history there that you can kind of move to and between and see which one actually is the one which is causing the problem, or which version is working. So coming back to this, if I want to add the control, I don't. It doesn't add it. If I go in and say yes, it will add the control. Now again, like I said, this is a very simplistic way of showing you what you can do to customize. You can create your own events, and you can do what you want to, really. Customers have actually gone ahead and created they've created full wizards out of this. So behind the scenes, they're building the layout based on asking questions from users, show them the layout at the very end, say this is what you want. The users can make a few changes and run the report or save the report. Some people have kind of saved the data along with the report. So there's a whole lot of combination. It really depends on what your specific use case is. So we've seen a whole lot of different ways of using the end user designer. Now, what your use case is, that will work. I'm sure it will work for that use case. We can come to those individual use cases one by one, again, in a one-to-one session, or we can tackle them towards the end of our session here. Right, so we are going to go back to our presentation here and move forward to meeting ActiveReports Server. Now, this is a server component, and this is a way for you to publish your reports directly to the server, to a server technology, which is built to be scalable, extensible, and just be deployed in any enterprise, whether it's for a SaaS application that you want a web-based portal for, whether it's something that you want internally. Right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go look at the portal, see it running reports, see how you would go ahead and schedule and work with those reports, and also publish and modify those reports from report designers. Let's do that first. Remember the Visual Studio Designer that I had and I was building that customer list in? Let me go in and open that project here. There it is. So I had this customer list, right? This is a report that I just created, this one right here. Let me go ahead and publish this. Now, take, for example, a use case that I'm building a report, whether it's an end user designer, so I'm a power user building a report, and I want to publish it to the server, or it's a developer, a set of developers generating reports and publishing it to the server. So I'll just go in here and say report, and save layout to server. And what this does is tells me, okay, well, here's my server, here's my username, here's my password, right? Connect to my server, and I have a list of all of my folders. I'll just use it, I'll just put it at the very top, no category, and I'll call it a customer list, right? And you can see that it has revisions, so this does have version history maintained. So we'll do save this report. Now, if you also you saw, we can also load it from the server. So I don't need to save the reports within my project. I can kind of use the server as my report repository and load it from the server, save it to the server, and stuff like that. Right? And again, I'm working right now on my Visual Studio environment. I haven't gone anywhere else. If I were, I could work on my end user control. So in a way, I could be working on my own, or you could be publishing this out to your own end users as part of your application, and they could be able to use the server that's deployed, again, that's deployed as a web product, as a SaaS-based product, or in their local environment. But that said, let's go in to our server here. I'm going to log in here as user 1, and there's my report. There's my customer list report. Yay! And if I run it, it runs, obviously. If that didn't run, that'll be Murphy's Law. But while that's running, while that's going to this database, okay, hold on. There's an interesting question here. For someone already using Microsoft's SQL Server reporting services, do you have a short list of build points on why I should consider AR to help justify the cost of training and licensing your offering? Well, Bill, that's a very interesting question. There are a lot of points there. SSRS is good in what it does. I won't want to kind of say that it doesn't do a lot of things because it does, right? It really, at the end of the day, is what you need for us to do, right? Barcodes, print management, reporting on different areas. You don't need to be stuck with SQL Server. You may have Oracle. There's a lot of different things that that help users come to ActiveReports versus SQL Server reporting services. But then at the end of the day, it is a user preference. It is what you need to do what your reporting requirements are, right? Coming back to this. So this is my HTML5 Viewer. You can see that it's completely different than what we were seeing over here in our online demo, right? Again, customized fully as part of the server, right? So I have that report list. I can go through it. I can save it as a different document, as a Word document, PDF, or an Excel workbook, right? Coming back to the server portal, I have favorites that I can add. I can have folders here to go through. Now this user is just for the webinar, so I only have 3 reports. These are the 2 other reports that I already had on there, as we saw. For each of these reports, I can schedule a task. I can add schedules, which can be sent out daily, weekly, monthly. Again, all managed at an admin from an admin perspective. I can email, or I can save it to a Windows file share periodically. If there were parameters that I needed to pass to it, I can pass parameters here as it is. Every time the schedule runs, it will be recorded in history. So all those run times are recorded in history here, and these are my revisions. So if somebody changes this report, loads it from the server, makes changes, and publishes it again, I will have a new version here. And I can choose which version I want and preview that version, or design. If I had the server report designer, I can design it here as well. Again, folder list, assigning categories to each of these reports, right? So all in all, this gives you a full report portal that you don't need to do anything to do. All you need to do is start publishing reports, install it on your server, and you're ready to go with a web-based report portal. If you wanted to integrate this, use the REST APIs, use the web service APIs, and integrate it within your own application. Now, obviously, you would be using a web application to integrate to, right? If you were creative enough, you could use the browser controls within WinForms and use this portal there as well. But that's just being creative. Now, it comes with built-in role management. Here I have, I'm part of everyone in Team Alpha. There's other groups there, but I don't see them because I'm not part of those groups. Now, one of the questions that we had was multi-tenancy. The server is built on top of multi-tenancy. So it fully supports the different ways, whether it's shared database or isolated database tenancy. You can actually link into your own authentication mechanism and use the security providers to kind of see where which user is logging in, which database to go to, and all that can be built in and integrated within your reports, all automatically by default, right? So coming back to here, we have a little over 18 minutes, so I want to leave a few minutes towards the end to kind of summarize. There's another poll that we want to go to as well. So we'll just spend 5 minutes on the web-based server report designer. Now, we had the end user report designer for end users who were using Windows Form applications. It was a lot more involved. It was for a power user. The web-based server report designer was built for business users, people who don't know SQL at all, right? They just know how to use Word. So let's have a look at this as well, right? So let me go ahead. I'm on my portal. Let me go ahead and build a new report, right? So I'm going to use Northwind, the same database. I'm going to create a report. Now I'm still on my browser. It's loading the web-based report designer for me, and when it's loaded. So over here, I see it looks a whole lot like Word, and it's meant to. I have a menu ribbon up top. I have reports. I have page. I can change my orientation of the page, and it changes the page layout. Right? That's what it's supposed to do. That's what you would expect a Word type application to you if you were a business user. Now, I go in and drag and drop my customer. That's what I wanted, and I want a tabular view. Now I'm building the same kind of report that I built in my EUD, in my oversimplified sample earlier. I'm just going to delete this column, and I'm going to say I want to add the country column here. Right? Add the country. Now I want to go one step further. I want to go in and say I want to also, from my orders, take my order subtotals and add the total for that customer. So I want to add aggregates. I'm going to go in and do aggregates as well. And when I add that in, it says, well, look, you're going to be spanning 2 pages, so it adds a page for me there. I'm going to go in and say, well, no, I don't want 2 pages. I just want to bring it back into 1 page. I'm going to format this because I see that it's not formatted. It's general. If it were defined in the model over here, it would automatically be formatted as currency. I wouldn't have to do this. But I missed doing this last. So I'll just have total, or say this is my total sales for this customer. And that's it. Ready to go. Let's preview this. And this will give me aggregates automatically. A few clicks, a few drag and drops, and I have a working report that I can use as a business user. I can export this out to, I can save this as an Excel file. Again, the same formats that we have available elsewhere, they're all available here as well, right? I can go in and design, I can go in and save this for future reference and say this is my customer list 2, right? Press OK, and we will see this report on my portal here. Now, there's different ways essentially how to use the designer, whether you want to use this as part of your, there's my customer list too, whether you want to use it as part of your Windows application, you want to give more power to your users, or you want to kind of simplify this for your end users who are business users, average business users who don't understand the technology or behind the scenes, and you want to give them something on the web. That's where you would use the web-based report designer add-on. So let's move back to our session here. We're just in time for our questions, but before we move on to the questions, a few takeaways, right? So what we covered today was what ActiveReports was, a general introduction. We didn't go in too deep, and if you do want us to go deeper, let us know. We will get around to you one-to-one and set up demos or set up another webcast to dive deeper in. So we saw that ActiveReports is a specialized tool set. It focuses only on reporting, and it gives you everything that you need for reporting. It's integrated with the Visual Studio IDE, so you don't need to go anywhere. You can remain within Visual Studio, within that familiar environment when you're developing and integrating with ActiveReports and kind of building reports into your environment. It is available through all the major development environments for viewers, whether you're building a web application using HTML5, using WPF, using Silverlight, or whatnot. You can do it with the ActiveReports. It does come with an end-user report designer, which is fully customizable that you can embed within your WinForms applications, or you can use the web-based report designer for your web applications. It has a centralized report server technology that we saw the report portal as part of, and the best thing, no royalty. It's all pricing is per developer. You don't need to ever pay royalty or cal fees. It's simply deployable through Xcopy and stuff. So you don't really need to reinvent the wheel when you're writing installers or publishing or deploying your projects out to your customers. Right? So let's end with a poll here in terms of what you would like us to focus on in further sessions. What do you want us to cover? Do you want us to dive deeper into one of these sessions, or it's completely different? Maybe we need to focus on something else. Let us know, and we will deep dive into those areas and plan for future sessions. Right? Okay, so we're getting votes in here, and while we're getting votes, let me go in, and there's a lot of questions here. So we're going to go in, just go to the very top, and one by one go through. Okay, so we have a few of the responses here. We've covered what's the difference between RDL and page reports. Okay, let me just close the poll here, move on to the questions round, and then come to this. So we see, well, a lot of us want to go in more detailed session on the visual and the actual report designer, go deep dive into that. I'm guessing we want to see more of the controls and building reports and how to integrate it with the other viewer types as well. And we can do those. If there's any specific areas of that report designer that you want to cover, let us know. We do have survey responses towards the end where you can let us know exactly what you want to cover in more detail. EUD is also another area, server, and how-to sessions are also there as well. So we'll wait for your responses from the survey at the end to kind of figure out what we need to do next and make sure that we are addressing your questions and your interest areas. Right, so a few housekeeping next steps before we move on to the questions. And there's a lot of questions, so we will be spending at least 10 minutes on these questions. I'm sure we won't get to all of them, but quickly going through, here's a few links where you can get started with the trial editions or trial versions of the two product lines, ActiveReports, ActiveReports Server. We have forums that you can get to for us to get to you for support if you want support, or just get your questions answered. If you have any sales or commercial licensing-based questions, you can always mail us. You can see upcoming webinars here and stay in touch. Follow me on ActiveReports, and we will be chatting on that on the Twitter as well. Let's go in and do questions. There's a couple of questions here about how it stacks up with SSRS. Like I said, there's a lot of different things. I'm not going to address, I'm not going to go through each and every part of the analysis between different products. The way that I see it is, give it a dry run. Run it, download the trial, go through it, see what it does for you. A lot of times what we find is that it does everything that you need it to do, and it's a lot easier than using other tools. So you can't really put a point about being easy or how easy. It really depends on the person to person. Right? So we're going to stay away a bit from those product-based questions. If you do really want me to get to those, we can get to those on a one-to-one session. Right? Scripting language is, you can do C# on scripting languages. And you're right, you can't do full C# if you're using standalone RPX files, but you can do a lot of the VB scripts and JavaScript type languages for those. Michael is asking, can report viewers such as WPF viewer access a report from the server? Yes. So there are ways that you can, there is a REST API that you can use to get access or run the report on the server and publish it to your viewers. Customizable viewers, so you can actually extend them, you can write your own code behind, enter and see what, kind of get the report stream output and publish it onto the viewer. So it's doable. If you really are looking for a sample there or need help, we will be happy to help. Let us know. Kylie wants to know a bit more about the report designer for end users to customize their own report. I hope we went through that enough when we looked at the demo. If not, Kylie, let me know, or Kyle, sorry, let me know, and we can dive deeper in there. Can ActiveReports use a REST web service as a data source? Yes. Nolan, sorry, you've left already, but the answer is yes. Hopefully in the recording you'll be able to see this. What is the best place to find more information on implementing the end user report designer in our application? Seth, the best place is go to our website. There's documentation, there's how-to topics and walkthroughs. Download the trial edition, and it comes with samples with the end user report designer built in. So the samples that I went through today, they are available to download as well, or they're with your installation of the trial edition. Yes, it is royalty-free integration, Doug. Okay, so one limitation I've been running into with page reports is the inability to bind to multiple data sources. Is that a feature that's going to be added, available at a later date? Now, page reports are slightly different when it comes to multiple data sources, Brian. Let's take this offline. Write me an email, and we will address your needs on that multiple data source. Maybe it's just a different way of doing what we need to get done. And is this part of WinForms or a separate item? I think you're asking about the EUD. It is going to be part of, you can embed it as part of WinForms. Will Grape City offer any sort of conversion tool for reports created with Component 1 Report Designer? There is already a project out there that does do some part of that. Todd, let us know if you need a link to that, and I can show, we can send that across to you. How sensitive are ActiveReports to data source schema changes? For example, if existing reports continue to work, if reports are added, or fields are added to a data source table but not referenced in the report, what if a field width is changed to be wider in the data source? What if data type is changed to be a more precise data type, and so on and so forth? Remember, what you're writing in the ActiveReports data set is a query, right? As long as the query does not break, it will run. It doesn't really matter what changes you do to the database schema. Now that's the same across your web-based report designer as well as your EUD or your IDE-based report designers. Essentially, it's all about the SQL, right? We talked a bit about the multi-tenancy. We can go into more details. Can you apply CSS to the controls? Yes. What happens if I design the report for daily data and user tries it for monthly or yearly data where the width of the numbers doubles or triples in size? You can auto-grow columns, you can wrap around columns, you can shrink to fit, so all those things are available to you, Bill. How can I make the viewer show the first page when it's rendering a lot of pages? There's various means, and I'm going to get this completely wrong in terms of pronouncing your name. Alejandro, I hope I got that right. But there's different ways of getting that done. There's pagination options that are available that you can use here. Printing, we haven't. We didn't look at printing, but that was an area that we can go to and see in future sessions. Can we give our customer only views or stored procs to choose from instead of raw tables? Yes, at the end of the day, it is customizable. You can choose to customize what your users see from your data sources. You can even have those coming off of web services for that matter. Now, what provisions are available for keeping, we answered that question. How do you add tables to report control and how do you join them? I think we went through that in the Visual Query Designer. I think if we didn't, Yuri, let me know and we can come back to that. Parameters, we had parameters in one of our reports, the orders by customers. We didn't go in and actually add parameters, Kyle. But if you do want to do those, we can definitely come back and show parameters in our detailed sessions. Would I be able to embed report viewer in a WinForm in an application built on .NET 3.5? Yes. When permit end users to modify reports, when permitting end users to modify reports, we often provide metadata of data to provide best described fields. Is it possible to do that with the ActiveReports solution? Yes, like I said, it is customizable. You can choose not to allow the users to define their query and just have a list of fields that they choose from and attach metadata to those fields, just like you would properties. Again, fully customizable here. Now, here we have a person who uses ActiveReports for Visual Studio 6, VB6. Yippee! Now we want to use these reports in Visual Studio.NET and the latest version of ActiveReports. Is it possible? Yes, it is. Definitely possible. There is conversion tools built into your Visual Studio that you can just convert the old reports and projects over. So that will work perfectly fine. Again, I'm not going to pronounce this right, but I'm just going to try Camden. If a report is hosted within ActiveReports Server, can we run the report within the web browser? Also, can the user supply parameters? Yes. Both answers are yes for that. Localization is just the way that you would localize your Visual Studio projects. Just use the resource files to localize and everything in there. That was Camden again. Bill, using the ActiveReports Server, can you publish a common set of reports against several different data sources? For example, a dev database, a QA database, a production database. How do you switch databases if, for example, you want to compare results from QA and production? There's different ways to do that. You could create a dynamic data set entry and use different users on the same server. You could have different connection strings. You could, like I said, Bill, there's a lot of ways to do that. Bottom line is, yes, it's doable. Web Designer only works with the report server. Yes, Bob, that is correct. Explain the developer license plus build machine license. Do we need both? Now, that's a licensing question. A good question to ask our sales team. We'll have somebody get back to you, Dan, on that. Last one here. Is there a viewer that allows viewing reports in both hard clients as well as web clients? Yes, the HTML5 control, I mean, you can use it through a browser or you can embed it within, like I said, be creative. You can embed it within a browser control within your WinForms, or just use different viewer controls. They're easy enough to use. Because reports, so Matthew is asking, because reports are inside of Visual Studio, does that mean they can be placed under source control, such as TFS? The answer is yes. You can use any source control that you need. There are essentially files within your project. So just as other additional files that you use, you can use those. You can use source control on them as well. Does API support iQueryable source at runtime? You'll need to ask me a bit more. You'll need to provide a bit more details about that. There are a lot of runtime support for data sources in the API. So it really depends on how you can get the data and what form you can send the data to the ActiveReports. So ask us a bit more, Miroslav, and we can help you with that question. Are those favorites by user? Yes, those favorites are by user. How does the viewer deal with large data sources when displaying individual pages? Again, an interesting question. Large data sources, you can load them partially, page by page, by writing customized code behind the scenes, or you can let the viewer just go in and get all the pages and display that all in one go. So a lot of different options that you have, Miroslav, there. But again, it really depends on what you want and what you need to do. The API is really extensive in that way. Here's another one from Alfred. Does it have the ability to use location for currency and date formats? Yes, you can use regional formats for your date formats, and it really depends on what your users are using. For currency, you could make the reports knowledgeable about the currency that they're using, but typically you want to use that at a database level so that you know what currency the data is stored in and share that as a format. And you can write expressions based on queryable sources and tell it what currency this specific value is in, for example. Complex reports, you can have conditional elements, but not conditional subreports. Complex reports within the browser are not what the browser report designer has been designed for at the moment. Right now, it's focused on the ad hoc reporting and self-service reporting that typical business users would want to see. It's not really meant for power users who want to create complex reporting. For those, you would typically use the full capabilities of the end user report designer to kind of embed within a product and share it off with your users. Right? It just needs more power. A couple of hundred reports in ERP software and want to migrate to a new platform, and it's a huge task. Eddie, definitely that's a huge task. We do have converters for Crystal reports and Access. So depending on what you use for ERP in your ERP software, let us know, and we will be happy to help. Manfred, that's good that you were able to make it here. Is there a possibility to pass data to report by objects? Yes, it is possible, and you can use the code behind. You can use events to overload and locate the data source and kind of do that all at runtime. The charting and chart interactivity in the web designer, there are a few charts, typical charts that users use, like bar charts, line charts, stacked bar charts, and stuff like that in the bubble charts in the web-based report designer. But again, like I said, the more involved reports are better designed within the end user designer that you can embed within your application rather than the web-based report designer. The web-based report designer is targeting business users, again, people who are not SQL savvy or tech savvy and not really power users. What databases does the report server support? Can it run on Oracle? Yes, Miroslav. The web-based report designer can create you can create models for Oracle, SQL Server, PostgreSQL, and MySQL. For ActiveReport, IDE designed reports, whether it's from the Visual Studio or the end user report designer, those data sources are a lot more. You can use XML, you can use shared data sources, and a lot more data sources than what the models can use. Again, different target audiences for each. Localization. It is localized the same way that you would localize your Visual Studio .NET projects, right? You have an RESX file, resource file, localize the content, and use that. There's no real rocket science behind there. So you can localize all the different parts of what you embed, the viewer, the reports, everything is doable through that. Okay, so the link-based data source, yes. Miroslav, thank you for the follow-up question. You can use a link to SQL and similar frameworks to get your data. So it is doable in the code behind. Or, okay, so one is asking if we can get data from sources hosted on Microsoft Azure. The answer is yes, you can. A few of our customers are actually using that already in both the ActiveReport Developer Edition as well as the web-based report designer. Okay, can I convert Crystal reports to ActiveReports? Yes, and there is a converter tool available for that. Thank you all for joining us. I look forward to each and every one of you downloading the trial edition and moving forward with us, and we will talk to you soon later. Right? Thank you all, and bye-bye.